If you grew up in a time when family heirloom recipes were passed down like treasure, written on index cards, tucked into cookbooks, or shared over kitchen counters, or maybe you're part of a younger generation where family secrets are handed over in a text message or saved on a thumb drive. No matter the era you grew up in, I am sure you've always wondered how many of those recipes and traditions that brought families together even in ordinary times have vanished over time. The ones your grandma or great-aunt made perfectly every single time, without measuring cups or looking at written instructions. Welcome back to our channel, Golden Years and Young'un. In today's video, we will be looking at 25 forgotten heirloom recipes that vanished from family tables. Some you might remember, others may surprise you. Make sure you don't skip this video, because by the end, you just might find a recipe from your childhood that you haven't thought about in years. We are starting this list with a classic that is still cherished beyond Hawaii, Midwest, and Southern USA. A dessert with a sweet caramelized top and moist buttery cake underneath. Now that's a treat worth getting excited about. So, without further ado, let's get this culinary show on the road with the first heirloom recipe on our list. Number 1. Pineapple upside-down cake. This cake is a classic dessert that has been loved for over a century. It became popular in the 1920s when canned pineapple became widely available in the United States. This cake is still a favorite in places like the Midwest, the South, and even Hawaii. It is often served at birthdays, Christmas get-together, and family gatherings. The cake is simple and special. It starts with a caramel base made from melted butter and brown sugar in a skillet. Pineapple rings are arranged on top, each with a maraschino cherry in the center. A basic yellow cake batter is poured over the fruit, and once baked, the skillet is flipped to reveal a golden caramelized top. The sweet pineapple and buttery cake create a perfect balance of flavors. What makes this cake memorable isn't just its taste, but the tradition behind it. Many families have passed down the recipe through generations, often associating it with warm memories of Sunday dinners or holiday gatherings. It's a dessert that brings people together. Number 2. Pawpaw bread. A nearly forgotten heirloom recipe that is still made in parts of Appalachia, the Ohio River Valley, and some areas of the Midwest, where pawpaw trees still grow. The pawpaw fruit can also be bought in stores if you don't have access to homegrown ones. The bread is made like banana bread, but uses mashed pawpaw pulp instead. It is flavored with cinnamon, nutmeg, and sometimes black walnuts, which grow naturally in the same areas. The result is a soft, sweet bread with a rich, natural taste. No artificial ingredients needed. My grandmother used to fondly say this as she shared her pawpaw bread with our neighbors in Kentucky. It's got no additives, no weird stuff you can't pronounce, and costs about $1 tops for a week's worth of sandwich bread. She also shared a helpful tip. Let the loaf cool completely, then turn it upside down to slice it. This keeps the slices neat and avoids making a mess. Pawpaw bread is more than just a recipe. It's a reminder of the past when people knew how to use the food growing around them. Though rare today, those who still make it say the flavor brings back warm memories of home and tradition. Number 3. Watergate salad. A sweet, creamy dish that you'd commonly see at family reunions, holiday buffets, and church potlucks, especially in the Midwest and the South. This bright green classic became popular in the 1970s and got its name from the Watergate scandal, though it was originally called Pistachio Delight. Despite the name, it's not really a salad. It's a light and fluffy dessert that has remained a must-have at Southern buffets and family reunions. I'm not sure if this was a joke back then, or if it still applies today. But back in the day, Folks believed it was against the law to leave Watergate salad off a Southern holiday buffet. It is quick and easy to make, requires just 5 ingredients depending on your preference: pistachio pudding mix, crushed pineapple, mini marshmallows, chopped pecans, and whipped topping. Mix everything together, let it chill, and it'll be ready to be served within the hour. In places like Tennessee and Kentucky, Watergate salad is still a favorite, often served alongside other nostalgic dishes like ambrosia salad. It is truly a classic that brings people together and carries the charm of the good old days. Number 4. Watergate cake. If you love Watergate salad, you'll definitely love Watergate cake. This cake actually came before Watergate salad and has remained a favorite in many homes across America. Its soft green color even made it a tradition for St. Patrick's Day celebrations in some families. This cake uses a white cake mix, pistachio pudding mix, club soda to keep it light, and vegetable oil. The frosting combines more pistachio pudding with whipped topping, giving it the signature soft green color it's known for. In states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, this cake was a favorite at spring parties. At home, it was also a special treat when neighbors stopped by. Some families added chopped nuts or coconut to the frosting to make their own special version. Back when we lived in Wisconsin, I can count on one hand how many events we attended where Watergate cake wasn't served. It's loved, it's delicious, and it always puts a smile on everyone's face. Number 5. Ham loaf. Till today, ham loaf well loved in both Pennsylvania Dutch and Amish communities. It is especially popular around Thanksgiving. Unlike regular meatloaf, this version is made with ground ham and pork, mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and milk for a unique flavor and taste. The highlight of this dish is its glaze, a sweet and tangy mix of brown sugar, vinegar, and mustard that caramelizes as it bakes. This rich coating balances the savory meat inside, making each bite delicious. Some families in Iowa even add ground beef for a different twist. For generations, ham loaf has been a way to effectively use leftover ham. Nothing in the kitchen went to waste. Sunday's ham became Monday's ham salad, and Tuesday's ham loaf, turning each leftover into something new and special. The Amish, known for their traditional cooking methods, also enjoy making ham loaf. They often use a similar recipe with ground ham and pork, but some variations include ground beef or sausage. Ham loaf is a classic dish that brings people together and keeps traditions alive. Number 6. Tomato aspic. Depending on who you ask, this is one of those dishes that might not win any beauty contests and will most likely disgust a younger person. But it's still a favorite to many today, beyond Virginia, Maryland, and the Carolinas. Back in the day, tomato aspic was a popular choice for fancy luncheons and family dinner. Many grandmothers added their own twist to the recipe, mixing in celery, olives, or even shrimp. I agree, the idea of jiggly tomato jelly might seem strange. But for those who give it a chance, its light, tangy flavor can be surprisingly refreshing, especially on sunny days when heavy meals feel like too much. Tomato aspic wasn't always a hit with the younger crowd, but it often grew on them over time. The other day I was speaking with my sister's older grandchild about tomato aspic, and he said to me, "We never liked it, but our grandma loved it and made it often. Because she's our Nana, and we love her, we ate it anyway." And eventually, it grew on us. Number 7. Rice pudding. A simple dessert with long history in New England before spreading across the country. It only takes a handful of everyday ingredients: sugar, milk, rice, and cinnamon, plus a little love, yet it tastes absolutely delicious. The beauty of rice pudding is how it adapts to local tastes. In Pennsylvania Dutch country, it's often served with a dollop of apple butter, while in Florida, some families add a hint of orange zest. And here's a pro tip I learned from my grandmother. The second day's pudding tastes even better, as the flavors meld together overnight. Growing up, I had a friend whose mom made this rice pudding every year around the holidays. Her recipe was a little different from my grandma's, but it was just as good. Her husband was Mexican, part of the brachero program, so she called it arroz con leche. I just called it rice pudding for the win. Number 8. Welsh rarebit. Blushing bunny, as my English friend used to call it, is an heirloom recipe that shows how Welsh and other UK immigrants brought their food traditions to America. They blended these traditions with local ingredients while holding on to the stories and flavors that reminded them of home. This cheese sauce served over toast was once a favorite in Welsh American homes. Made with sharp cheddar, mustard, and sometimes beer or ale, it had a bold, delicious taste. Welsh rarebit was an important part of family life. People gathered around to enjoy it on cold nights, or as a budget-friendly yet satisfying lunch. But as fast food took over American kitchens in the mid-20th century, the tradition of making Welsh rarebit from scratch started to fade. The careful process of melting cheese, balancing spices, and preparing this dish together became more of a memory than a routine. You can still find it in some homes, at special events, and even on restaurant menus in New York. But today, it's rare to meet someone who still makes real Welsh rarebit from scratch, using their grandmother's recipe. Sadly, it has become a forgotten heirloom recipe. Number 9. Beef stroganoff. This is another rich, tasty dish that became a favorite in many homes across America in the 1950s and 60s. Whether it was served in a local farm in Minnesota and Iowa, or at a dinner party in a high-end restaurant in New York, beef stroganoff was a meal that brought people together. It had tender beef, sautéed mushrooms, and a creamy sour cream sauce. Super simple, takes about 30 minutes, but it can feed an entire family. Over the years, it became a regular meal in homes. Busy mothers who wanted to serve something delightful and impressive without spending hours in the kitchen could always count on it. American versions of this Russian classic often simplified the recipe, using ground beef instead of strips and cream of mushroom soup instead of made-from-scratch sauce. Yet even with these changes, it had the same great taste that made it a favorite for generations. Number 10. Grapefruit. This simple breakfast added a touch of sunshine to cold mornings, a simple yet elegant way to start the day. You'd find it on breakfast tables across Florida, California, and Texas. Half a grapefruit, sprinkled with sugar, and placed under the broiler, developed a crisp, caramelized top that contrasted beautifully with the tart, juicy flesh below. A special serrated spoons, made just for grapefruit, helped scoop out each section without making a mess. Back then, I had a colleague from Arizona whose mom made grapefruit brulee just like Mama did. It was always a treat, and she always used her mom's special grapefruit spoon. Sweet memories like that have a way of brightening up even the dreariest days. During winter, when citrus fruits were available in large quantities, this snack that often doubled as food added vitamin C and a touch of luxury to our breakfast. Grapefruit brulee proved that even the most common foods could become cherished traditions. Hold up. Let's do a quick check. If you've heard or eaten at least 3 of these recipes so far, congratulations. You're officially a vintage food expert. If you knew 5 or more, you might actually be your grandma. And if you've tried all of them, you win the internet today. Let me know your score in the comments. Number 11. Zucchini apple pie. A dessert that repeatedly fooled many foodies and guests with its name, zucchini apple pie. tastes like apple, but it contained no apple at all. During late summer, when gardens were full of zucchini, folks would peel, seed, and slice the squash into apple-sized pieces. Mix with lemon juice, cinnamon, and sugar, then baked in a flaky crust. Many county fairs across Illinois and Indiana even featured contests for the best mock apple pie. Cooks often keep their spice blends secret to increase the illusion of real apple pie. And at the end, the taste was always divine. Folks across Midwestern states like Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana knew that baking a zucchini is another great way to use up those surplus zucchini, especially the ones that grow into marrows before you know it. Number 12. Chicken a la king. A king of a classic heirloom recipe that was served at dinner tables from New York clubs to family homes in California. Chicken a la king helped busy moms turn leftover chicken into something delightful. It became a top choice in many homes because of its versatility. It could be served over rice, pasta, toast points, or freshly baked biscuits, taking different forms to suit the occasion. In places like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, it often appeared at bridal showers in delicate pastry shells, while families in the Midwest might ladle it over mashed potatoes on busy nights. Many families still save this dish for Sunday dinners, using the remains of Saturday's roast chicken to create something entirely new. Number 13. Tuna noodle casserole. Parents who worked multiple jobs to make both ends meet fed their kids this classic because it was affordable, rich with flavor and healthy nutrients. A mix of tuna, creamy sauce, egg noodles, and a crispy topping. This beloved heirloom recipe became popular in the 1950s when canned foods were common in most homes. Mothers could quickly mix canned tuna and cream of mushroom soup with basic food ingredients they kept at home to make a delicious meal that is still under their budget. But as Americans started preferring fresher foods and dishes from other countries, this simple casserole began disappearing from meal tables. The handwritten recipe cards with food stains and notes in Grandma's handwriting were put away in boxes, replaced by newer, trendier dishes. Tuna noodle casserole was once a Thursday night tradition, but over the decades, it became a rare nostalgic meal, with many younger people never tasting this balanced dish that helped so many American families during tough times. Number 14. Tomato soup cake. This might sound strange to young people, but tomato soup cake was a huge deal in the 1950s, especially in New Jersey and throughout the Northeast. This unusual cake used condensed tomato soup instead of milk or water to make a moist, tender crumb with warm spices like cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. Raisins and walnuts added texture, while cream cheese frosting balanced the subtle spices. Recently, I visited my sister in Pennsylvania, and coincidentally she was invited to a neighbor's birthday party, and the host let me tag along. I was surprised when they served this old-time classic at the event. Curious, I asked about it, and the host explained that their grandfather, the celebrant, often talked about how his wife used to bake this cake for him. To honor the memory, his grandchildren found their grandmother's recipe and baked it as a surprise for his birthday. The recipe first appeared on Campbell's soup cans during the post-war era, when homemakers embraced convenience products in creative ways. The uniqueness of this cake lies in its secret. You'd never guess its main ingredient unless someone told you. Number 15. Deviled eggs. Another classic that might be seen less often nowadays but never gone completely. However, the versions of this heirloom recipe served at backyard BBQs in the South and family picnics across New England have evolved with each generation. But their appeal remains the same: timeless. Hard-boiled eggs with creamy yolks mixed with mayonnaise, mustard, and a touch of paprika were the basis for countless family variations. Some added pickle relish, others insisted on a dash of vinegar, and debates over the proper amount of paprika could divide households. From what I've seen, kids have taken deviled eggs to a whole new level. They've given this classic snack an Easter-style makeover to make it even more fun, adding avocado-infused fillings, bacon-topped versions, and even creative garnishes like herbs or pickled onions. Some are even frying their deviled eggs, turning this healthy snack into something warm and crispy, while keeping that rich, creamy center we all love. In places like the Carolinas and Virginia, no family gathering was complete without a special deviled egg plate. 16. Boston brown bread. This is a traditional bread from New England, made with molasses, rye flour, cornmeal, and often steamed in a can. It is commonly served with Boston baked beans and hot dogs. This bread is a common food in New England, especially in places like Boston, Massachusetts, and Portland, Maine. Americans often say it's a classic New England food, and it's not as well known outside of this region. New England fishermen and factory workers carried slices of this delicious bread in lunchboxes, often spread with cream cheese or baked beans. The combination of Boston brown bread and baked beans became a Saturday night tradition in countless homes throughout the region. And its popularity grew when most people didn't have ovens at home. Families cooked over open fires or used small wood stoves with little room. Steaming the bread in leftover cans or other containers was a smart way to make it work. Number 17. Banana cream pie. Back then, my siblings and I often joked about where banana cream pie came from. We all agreed it must have descended from heaven because of its enchanting looks. And as we got older, my elder brother would often tease about performing a magical spell to change banana cream pie into a charming young lady with whom he could have a proper courtship. This smooth and creamy dessert became a favorite in American homes in the 1900s, especially in places like Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. Pies were already popular in farm towns, and as bananas started being a regular commodity in local markets, banana cream pie became many people's favorite. With layers of vanilla custard, fresh bananas, and fluffy whipped cream in a flaky crust, it soon became a tradition to have a banana cream pie on the menu at family get-togethers and church potlucks. Every family had their own way of making it. Some added toasted coconut, while others drizzled caramel on top. But no matter how it was made, banana cream pie always brought smiles. It's the kind of dessert that brings back sweet memories of the good old days. Number 18. Creamed chipped beef. Chipped beef on toast, often called SOS for short, is a food that takes us back to the Great Depression and the years of World War II. This simple yet filling meal features dried beef cooked in a creamy white sauce made from flour, butter, and milk, then served over toast. During tough economic times in states like Ohio, across the Midwest, and the South, this meal became a lifesaver, stretching a small amount of meat to feed an entire family. It was especially popular in military mess halls, where soldiers baptized it with a memorable nickname and called it "shit on a shingle." After the war, veterans brought the recipe home and it became part of the family breakfast or dinner menu. For many baby boomers, this heirloom recipe brings back memories of fathers who insisted on making it, either because they genuinely loved it or because it reminded them of their time in the service. Though its nickname might raise eyebrows, chipped beef on toast is a reminder of how resourceful we are as people, turning simple ingredients into something satisfying during hard times. Number 19. Spam musubi. This is a Hawaiian-American heirloom recipe that has been a favorite to many since the mid-20th century. It is made with grilled spam, sushi rice, and a strip of dried seaweed, commonly known as nori. It is a portable and flavorful snack, that is enjoyed throughout Hawaii and later spread to California and the West Coast. Spam musubi was created during World War II, when fresh meat was hard to find in Hawaii. It is a simple but clever dish with a slice of fried spam on rice, wrapped in nori seaweed. The spam is coated in a sweet and savory mix of soy sauce and sugar, making a perfect balance of salty, sweet, and mild flavors. Even in this era, spam musubi is one of the all-time favorites for many people. Younger chefs have added creative twists, like tobiko, a flying fish roe, sometimes called albino caviar, turning this humble snack into something even more special. Today, you can see this handheld meal at potlucks, picnics, and in convenience stores throughout Hawaii and increasingly across California and the Pacific Northwest. Number 20. Coca-Cola cake. This is a true vintage recipe that represents Southern ingenuity. You'd commonly find it across Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas at family reunions, potlucks, etc. Coca-Cola cake started showing up in recipe books in the 1950s and 1960s, when using brand name products in recipes started becoming a thing. It's a perfect example of how a simple soda was turned into a meal that served the whole family. The addition of Coca-Cola makes this cake extra tender and adds a hint of caramelized sweetness, while the fudgy frosting takes it to the next level. The warm frosting gets poured over the hot cake, creating a glossy, almost truffle-like topping. At the end, you will have a double chocolate Coca-Cola cake that is rich, moist, and packed with chocolatey goodness. So, which of these heirloom recipes have you tried recently? Or which one are you most excited to make? And if you haven't tried any yet, what's stopping you? You're either lucky or missing out, depending on who you ask. Do let me know in the comments. And hit that like button if you remembered at least one of these. Number 21. Beef Wellington. This classic dish was a celebration at home, traveling from fancy restaurants to special occasion tables across New England and the mid-Atlantic states. Beef Wellington is truly an impressive dish. It has beef tenderloin covered in a rich mushroom mixture and liver spread, then wrapped in flaky pastry and baked until golden. In the 1960s and 70s, home chefs made it for big occasions and celebrations like anniversaries, holidays, etc. And they often used Julia Child's recipes. Mastering the art of French cooking. Her step-by-step guidance made this intimidating meal achievable for ambitious cooks at home. In this era, Gordon Ramsay's version, Beef Wellington, has brought this classic heirloom recipe back into the spotlight on television. Many people may not know its traditional roots as a home-cooked celebration meal. Families in places like Connecticut and New York saved this dish for special occasions, often Christmas or New Year's dinner. A perfectly baked beef Wellington created not just a meal, but an event. Children watched in awe as the golden pastry was cut open to reveal the perfect pink center, learning that some foods were worth the extra time and attention. Number 22. Green Goddess Salad. This recipe takes us back to California in the 1920s, where it was created at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco to honor actor George Arliss, star of the play The Green Goddess. I remember it as a vibrant salad with a creamy herb-filled sauce made with mayonnaise, sour cream, anchovies, tarragon, chives, and parsley. During its peak popularity in the 1920s and 30s, it appeared at ladies' luncheons and dinner parties up and down the California coast, often served over crisp lettuce or cabbage. Just last month, I was discussing with Clara, a food historian from Los Angeles, about Green Goddess salad, and she noted, "There's a little debate about using cabbage or lettuce as the base." Today, the younger generation has given this classic a twist, turning it into creamy pasta salads with spinach, basil, and feta cheese. The recent resurgence of interest in heritage recipes has brought green goddess salad back to restaurant menus in Portland, Seattle, and throughout California, where chefs update the classic with additions like avocado or Greek yogurt. Number 23. Cottage cheese loaf. This loaf was a common food and budget-friendly meal. Families across the Midwest often depended on this protein-packed food. It was soft, slightly chewy, and had cottage cheese mixed right into the dough, giving it a tender texture and extra nutrition. Families in Wisconsin and Minnesota, both known for their dairy farms, used this recipe to turn simple cottage cheese into a sandwich that comes in handy for breakfasts. Many who try this bread for the first time describe the bite as immaculate and are usually surprised by how the simple addition of cottage cheese changes ordinary bread into a delightful meal. During the health food movement of the 1970s, cottage cheese loaf found new followers across the country, particularly in health-conscious communities in California and Colorado. Today, people now make various additions to cottage cheese loaf to suit their liking. Some would add sesame seeds sprinkled on top. I tried it one time in a local diner in Iowa, and it tastes insanely good. I asked the owner, who was also the in-house chef, about it, and she said her grandmother taught her the recipe, so she makes a few additions every now and then. Number 24. Bread pudding. An excellent example of home cooking passed through generations. This thrifty dessert turned stale bread into a sweet meal across Louisiana, throughout the South, and into the Midwest. It was made with cubes of day-old bread soaked in a mixture of milk, eggs, sugar, and spices, then baked until it becomes golden and custardy. Cinnamon and raisins were standard additions, though many families added their own twist with nutmeg, vanilla, or a splash of bourbon. Adults in their 30s and 40s, even younger folks from Louisiana, will tell you they grew up eating different versions of bread, pudding, either as a simple dessert after dinner or a fancy holiday treat topped with whiskey sauce or caramel. Regional variations were common with bread pudding. New Orleans-style bread pudding often had a rich bourbon sauce, while Midwestern versions might include apples or nuts. Bread pudding shares the same fundamental message with ham loaf, about food. Nothing goes to waste. Number 25. Stuffed celery. This is another classic appetizer that you'd see at church gatherings, holiday parties, and family dinners across America. This dish had crisp celery stalks filled with a variety of spreads, making it both easy to prepare and enjoyable to eat. Different regions had their versions of stuffed celery. In the South, pimento cheese was a favorite filling, while the Midwest often used cream cheese mixed with olives. A kid-friendly version, known as ants on a log, replaced the savory spreads with peanut butter and was topped with raisins. For more refined tastes, some people wrapped cream cheese stuffed celery with prosciutto, while others used tuna salad for a simple lunch option. Stuffed celery, that was once a common snack for social events, has become a forgotten heirloom recipe. Its simplicity and versatility made it a great way to introduce children to cooking, as it was often one of the first recipes they learned to make on their own. And there you have it, 25 forgotten heirloom recipes that vanished from family tables. But these meals aren't just food, they're memories, traditions, and a taste of the past that deserve a comeback. Did any of these recipes bring back memories for you? Which ones are you looking forward to try for the first time? Or maybe you've got a family favorite that should have made the list? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more lost recipes and forgotten heirlooms. And if you know someone who loves vintage cooking, or just loves eating, share this video with them. Let's bring these classics back, one recipe at a time. Thanks for watching. Happy cooking, and I'll see you in the next one.